So today we're going to be covering a plethora of things. We're doing a full removal, we're doing a reshape from a coffin to a stiletto, tip application, the lot. So it's a bit of a longer video, it's about 40 minutes. So grab a brew, take a seat and let's get started. As always, we're starting with our removals. So we're using you're in the ride with me now. We're using the 2XC bit. Now, this is from Katie Barnes. It's fabulous and it literally just eats through that acrylic. I am quite gentle and I am quite slow, and that's okay. I find if I rush this part, I am quite likely to hurt somebody. So I am incredibly careful when it comes to anything like this. If you can hear rustling in the background, I am setting my kit up because I am doing a few sets later on today, which I'm really looking forward to. And of course, please feel free to fast forward through this removal part. I'm not great at putting chapters on things just yet. I'm not really sure how to do it. So if you fast forward just a few minutes, you should be able to get to the actual prep. I will talk you through a little bit of the soak off procedure that I'm doing right now. Basically what I do is I will file that nail as thin as possible. I then remove some of the length. I do it this way round because there's a concern if you use one of those tip cutters on full acrylic, you can shatter the acrylic down the nail and it can cause some real damage to the natural nail. So what I do is I file that as thin as possible because it really doesn't, 6 of one, unless it was a really long nail, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, how long the nail is when you're filing. But basically I am taking the majority of that bulk down, and then when I go in with my tip cutter, it just snips off the tip and it doesn't cause any damage to the actual nail. Also, and I cannot emphasise this enough, file as thin as you possibly can. If you're doing a full removal, file that gel or acrylic as thin as you possibly can. If you think you've got thin enough, like this would probably be thin enough when I was first doing acrylic like nails, I probably would have gone in with my soak off then. Keep going. Now, you'll see it does take a few more minutes, and I am constantly touching that nail just to make sure it's not heating up or anything like that. But my soak offs, when the foil's on, takes 10 minutes. So, and that is because I am filing it as thin as possible. And I then wrap it in foil. If your acetone dries up, then you will find that your removals will slow down because you'll need to reapply. It'll only remove a little bit. The acetone needs to stay wet. You can also pop the hands in maybe a warm towel or something and that'll help. A lot of people will put a bowl of acetone on top of boiling water. I don't do that. I don't think it's terribly safe. Only because I did it once years ago. And the acetone, when I put it in the boiling water, some of the acetone went into the boiling water and it kind of exploded and spat back at me. So I'm always a little bit loath to do that when I've got a client in front of me. Once I have done that and I've wrapped it in the foils, I'll work over to the other hand, and normally by the time I'm finished the other hand, I'm ready to come back. Normally, once I'm finished that other hand, I am ready to start with the removal. Please bear with me. Doing two things at once isn't my strong point. With anybody who says that women should multitask, I'm afraid that particular skill absolutely passed me by, sadly. I would love to be able to multitask, but it's just not one of my fortes. So if I get a little bit distracted, I do apologise, but I've got about a million things to do and I just want to make sure that there's a video up for you over the weekend. Also, if you do enjoy my videos, could I ask a huge favour? Could you please share it to anybody you think might be interested? And also, if you wouldn't mind liking it and subscribing, and I will try and remember my words and put my teeth back in as well. So I'll leave you to watch for a few moments and then I'll be back in a moment when we move on to the next steps. So now we're getting onto the removal part. So this is just to show you, I've only left in about 3 fingers, so it didn't get too monotonous. But what we do is we literally just take that foil off, leave the others in foil, don't unwrap them all. The minute it dries up, it will stop, the acetone stops working, it dries up, and you've got a load of lumpy hard acrylic on the nail. And then you literally just look how easily that peels off. Now, there was some gel on this, so it took a tiny touch longer, but once I'd filed that gel over the top of it, it literally just buffed off the nail. These nail files that I've got, they're not amazing. They're not terrible, but they're not amazing, so they're quite soft. But they're basically just a little bit too soft. However, it does mean that for a removal, they're kind of perfect. So I use them for my removals. So once we've done our removal, we need to move on to our prep. So go in with your powder as always. We're rubbing that in just to try and dehydrate that nail a little bit more. Then once we've done that, we're going to go in with our cuticle pusher. Now this particular one is from Honer, but any etching tool will do. It's not got the pad on it for etching. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just very gently lifting up that cuticle. I'm not pushing into the nail. This is a metal tool, so we don't want to damage the nail. I'm literally just trying to scoop underneath that cuticle, lift it up and create a pocket, and the pocket is for our flame bit to go into. I also needed to remove some of the length because we're applying fresh tips for this client. This client, like, it's not my best mate of like 20 odd years, honestly. You should laugh at that. This dear client. But yeah, so basically I have to be super careful because I do her nails quite regularly, and she always wears relatively long nails. Her hypernicum is really, really high. So you'll notice there's still quite a bit of white left on her nails, and I can't take it any lower than that. So, I mean, it's, you know, and natural nails are absolutely gorgeous. I love doing her nails. You know those clients where you just love doing the nails because they've got a really nice shaped nail bed, and just everything about it absolutely lends itself to a really nice nail. So yeah, I absolutely love doing her nails, but that's yet another side ramble from me. But yeah, so basically I am filing the end of that, but I'm making sure I'm not touching the epinicium, hypernicum rather. So if you look on the middle nail in a moment, I'll actually turn it upside down, because I don't know if you can see that. I'm having to actually work round it because her hypernicum literally comes up to there. So I think that took me ages because my eyes, I've just got some new glasses, so it's a damn sight better. But I could not see the difference where her hypernicum actually stopped because her hypernicums are also quite clear. However, when I turned it upside down, I realised it was practically at the top, much higher than than I think any of my other clients. So. But mine do the same. It's just something that happens when you wear long nails. It's like your natural nail starts to kind of almost accommodate for that longer nail, which is why people will say to me, oh, I don't know how you wear those longer nails. And it's like, well, my nails are just used to wearing the longer nails, if that makes any sense. So then we're going to move on to our prep, our proper prep, when we really get into it. I love this part. So I go down the left-hand side of the nail with my cuticle flame bit. Now it's on forward down the left-hand side and it's on reverse when we go down the right-hand side. I used to just do it in reverse all the way around because I saw somebody do it and actually it was fine. But you get such a better clean when you do it this way. I'm not applying any pressure. I'm trying to make sure that that cuticle bit is as close to the, is as parallel to the nail as possible. My doggy's just come in from the garden to say hello and stand on all of my stuff and investigate everything. Yes, you. Yes, cheeky boy. So if you do hear any kind of snuffling, that's him. But yeah, so then we go down the right-hand side of the nail and we really need to get in there. So it just means that if you look at that, I'm not applying any pressure. I'm only doing a few passes just to make sure the nail plate's clean. And I'm giving that a good scrub. I started hooking the brush onto my little finger and honestly, it makes such a difference. I'm not needing to put my e-file down all the time. And now I just I'm used to it. The amount of times I've gone onto the acrylic bit and I've still got a little brush stuck on my nail. It's hilarious, honestly. Do you want to get up on the sofa? Okay, beautiful man. Come on, that's it. Good boy. Sorry, pups and children always come first. I don't have children, but I'm sure if I did, they'd come first. So, like I say, just go around that cuticle, just making sure you're parallel. We're not digging into the nail. We don't want the flame bit digging into the nail at the point. And then just really gently swooshing around there. Once we've done that, the speed is relatively high. It's higher than you would imagine. I normally have it on around I think it's 13 to 16. It really depends on the client, the e-file. You really have to look at your client and see what your client needs. But yes, so once I've done all of that, I will make sure that's, again, nice and filed. I don't want to touch that cuticle, but I want to, that hypernicum rather, but I want to make sure that it's as smooth as possible for when I then go in with my tip in a little bit. Ideally, if the nails were shorter, it's easier to put the tips on, but they're just not, and I'm not prepared to damage, obviously, her hypernicum or her nail health to do that. It just means that I have to be a little bit careful about how I put her tips on in a moment. Then we go in with our cuticle scissors. These particular scissors are from Katie Barnes, as always. The OG, the best. I'd be lost without them. Honestly, like now, I used to be so scared of cutting cuticles. But once I got these, absolute game changer. They're amazing. And because they're very, very light, they're really nicely shaped to the cuticle. The difference is vast. I can't reckon that they're not cheap. They're probably around about 30 odd pounds. But I'll stand by the fact that they are fantastic and also they last. So I've had the same. I've got a couple of pairs just so obviously I can sanitize some while I'm working. With other ones, but I on the whole will probably only need normally around 2 or 3 pairs. But yeah, they sanitize beautifully. They've lasted really well. There's a lot of, you could go on Shein and you can buy a load of cheap e-file bits and they're great, no problem. But it's just, when you go to a place like, when you go to like the likes of Katie Barnes, it's a different experience. And you're going to get something that's going to last longer and you don't need to keep replacing it. Next step is to go in with our polisher. I use a metal polisher. This one is, I think this one was actually from HW Nail Systems, because she sent me a load of stuff, I think it was last year, and it's probably one of the nicest bits I've got for polishing skin. I've only got one of them, unfortunately. I probably need to buy a couple more. But what I'll normally do is I obviously try and make sure that's clean between services, because it's just, it like for this kind of thing, it's super gentle. It exfoliates any skin, any non-living tissue round the outside. And although I don't tend to hit the nail with it, the nail plate with it rather, if it does, it doesn't really do anything because it's super gentle. So you'll see there I'm actually kind of pushing the cuticle back rather than working on the nail plate. So yeah, I really recommend that particular bit. In fact, HW Nail Systems e-file bits and their products generally are fantastic. The only reason I didn't keep using their stuff is literally because I had Jellifique, and I'm trying not to mix my brands as much as possible. I think with all brands like that, it's usually good if you can to try and keep to one system. I will sometimes use different colours, but I will always try and make sure, so like the base gel is one brand, the say if I'm using a hard gel, that'll be the same brand as the base gel, and the top coat I'll try and use the same brand as well. And I just, like, from what I've read, I think it's a bit safer as well. Ideally, again, all the same company, but sometimes you can't get the colours, etc., that you want from the company that you're with. So it just means I've got a bit more flexibility with colour. Next, I go in with my sanding band. This is a mini sanding band. It is from Katie Barnes again. I am just very lightly, it's like a 240 grit, and I'm literally just gently going over that nail plate. I'm about to run out of them, and I'm not sure whether to replace. So let me know your thoughts on sanding bands in the comments. So I have some pads for my etching pad. What I like about this is I can blend in the acrylic a lot easier, and I'm not particularly precious about using a hand file over a sanding band, because I think both can cause damage if you're not careful, and I'm super careful anyway. But I'm thinking of starting just to use the etching tool on everybody. So what I would do is I would kind of put the little etching pad on the end of that tool I used at the beginning, and just etch the nail plate in kind of crisscross patterns, a little bit like I'm doing here, but it probably would take a little bit longer, but I feel like it might be a good way to start doing it. So let me know your feelings on the sanding band, etching tool, nail file debate. I'd be really, really interested to hear what you've got to say. So once we've done all of this, we need to go and clean up the nail plate. So I will go in with my brush again with some prep and that kind of thing, and I will give that a really, really good scrub. Now, the prep I use is acetone and alcohol, and I use around about 2 parts alcohol to 1 part acetone. So it kind of works out, I think, at about 75% acetone and 25%, 75% alcohol and 25% acetone, or 70-30. I mean, obviously it's somewhere there or thereabouts. I'm not measuring anything, I'm just sticking it in, but I just want considerably less acetone because I don't want to dry it out too much. But basically, once I've done all of that cleansing, I'll then go in with my tips. I won't do my priming, etc., until after I've applied all of my tips. But basically, we are going in with the Advanced Clear Matte Tapered Competition Tips from Pro Impressions, which are probably one of my favourite tips, if I'm being honest. Although they're slightly tapered, you can do square and all sorts with them, so highly recommend them. They're also thin as anything. And because this client's nails are a little bit longer, it meant that they were just easier to mould to the nail. So when I actually glue them on, if there's any little bits sticking up, they stick down really, really well. So yeah, I love these tips. I think I need to buy some more actually, but honestly, Pro Impressions are probably one of my favourite tip companies. I buy an awful lot of tips and the glue from them as well. But yeah, so basically with the tips, you need to make sure they are fitting sidewall to sidewall. We don't want it too small because otherwise it can cause breakage around about the tip area. If you're finding that your nails are breaking around the tip area, so around the free edge of your your client's natural nails, you will find that it's probably because your tips aren't sized correctly or your apex isn't high enough, but the tips will cause a huge bit of difference on that. Also, because I'm doing stiletto, I'm trying to angle those tips ever so slightly down. If you do this, it means that when you actually file the sides, they're not pointing up too much, and you'll get a slightly better structure. Once I've done that, I did go in with my tip cutters and I just trimmed a little bit off the end. And then we literally just went in with the scissors and we cut off the outer corners. So do that on both sides. These scissors are from Navy Pro. And I have to say, again, quite pricey, but I've had them for years and they are as sharp as the day I got them. And I think they've got like a 5-year warranty, so I've just picked them up and showed them like you can see. So imagine you're looking at what I'm looking at. Well, I suppose you are to an extent. But yeah, those scissors are fabulous. But in all honesty, if you get some cheap ones off Amazon, that's probably fine for that kind of thing. The cuticle bits and stuff like that, where I'm working on the natural nail plate, I try and be really careful with. But certain things you can afford to kind of get away with it. You'll see there I'm just blending in the corners a touch just to make sure we don't have anything sticking out, because I find it really helps with the shape. And I also like try and smooth off the sides a little bit as well. Again, I will leave you to watch this. I haven't got a huge amount of filing in today's video as it was already quite long, but I can always try and do that in a separate video for you if you like. Again, just let me know in the comments. Next I go in with a dedicated prep and primer, and this is Bexy Glow's dehydrator. So I say prep, it's the dehydrator. And then I go in with the Young Nails Protein Bond, and I'll do 2 coats of the Young Nails Protein Bond. You only really need that on the nail, you won't need that on the tip. They've started doing a bigger bottle as well, which I got on Amazon for about 20 odd quid, and it will last me for ages, and it really does help with retention, so... Now we have some application. I absolutely love application. This is from, this particular acrylic is from, it's called Angelic, and it's from by Ashley, and it's such beautiful acrylic. It's got the most subtle shimmer in it. It was so pretty. She was like, can we leave a couple of nails bare? And I was like, bet. Of course you can, no problem. So I am doing most nails, I think, in 2 beads. I'm using the Liz Guild acrylic brush. It's not massive, but it's really, really nice to work with. And it just means that I don't need, I can't always do a huge bead. So say if I had my big boy brush or my Queenie brush, I would probably do this in 1 bead, but I quite like doing it in 2 beads with the Liz Guild brush. So what I'll do is I will apply my acrylic. I will basically burp my brush in the monomer. So that means all of the bubbles come out of my brush. Then I will tap my brush into the powder 3 times. I'll turn the brush over because it allows it to polymerise. So you'll see that bead goes a little bit glossy. And then even when it's on the nail, I'm not rushing to kind of blend it down the nail. I like to leave it just to sit for a moment because I find that it moulds so much easier. You need it to get to a point where it's mouldable and not runny. So here I tap that just to make sure I get any divots out of the powder. I bounce about 3 times, allow it to polymerise, tap off any extra acrylic, and then I go in with my application. So I'm literally just applying that second bead around the cuticle, tucking it in at the cuticle, and then blending it down. Now I think on this particular nail I did go in with another one just from a structure. Don't ever be afraid to do that. If you need to add more, add more. As long as your ratio's pretty much consistent, that's not a problem. When I talk about ratio, I am talking about the amount of monomer to the amount of powder. So like I say, it's normally submerge the brush, tap it a couple of times. So some of the monomer comes off. You don't want a really wet bead, and then you bounce it in the powder. One of the best tips that I ever had was to literally just sit with a thing of powder. You know, if you're not a nude, maybe one that you don't use as much, get your monomer and literally just pick beads up. Getting that consistency of your bead, you want a bead that releases easily from your brush. You want a bead that's mouldable, not too runny. Doing that made my ratio go from like really, really kind of inconsistent and a bit runny sometimes to a bit dry to pretty much the same thing every single time, and it's made such a difference. Now I'm going to leave you to watch the application for a moment, and I'll be back in a little bit to talk about the next steps. Again, I've not left the filing in this one because otherwise the video would have been nearly an hour, and I wasn't sure if that was too long. If you want me to do that, can you let me know in the comments, because I'm always here to try and make obviously the content that you guys want to see. So always love your feedback. So we're doing two effects here. We're doing a cat eye effect and we're doing some stamping. So two super easy, super quick effects that look really, really effective. So I go in with my gel. Now this is a Beatles one, I have to confess, but actually, oh no, it's a Models 1, I beg your pardon. And it's from Amazon and it's really nice. So basically I put it on, I wave the magnet around it. You'll see how I do that in a second. And I do one nail at a time because I don't want it to kind of blend back. You'll see how close we're managing to get to the cuticle now because of all that prep we're doing. And honestly, it makes such a difference. So it just looks beautiful. I'm not touching the cuticle. If we touch the cuticle, we will have lifting, but I am getting as close as I physically can. So you'll see here, I'm just waving that magnet underneath it, and honestly, it's beautiful. The only thing I would say is I probably should have put a clear base layer on the nail, just even like a base coat, or done 2 coats of this, just because I feel like the cat eye would have activated easier. Once I've done all of that, I'm going to cure it, then add a matte top coat, and then I'm going to go in with the stamping design in a moment. So I recently rooted out my stamping plates, and honestly, it's been brilliant. I've really been able to level up my nail art. So what I do is I paint on, I bought like 6 polishes off Amazon, just normal nail polishes off Amazon, and I literally just put a good covering onto the palette, wipe it with a card, and then pick it up with my jelly stamper. So this is a clear jelly stamper one. I think I got it from clear jelly stamper, Chrissy Pierce's website in the UK, because at the time it was the only one doing it, and in all honesty I would always buy from her because I think her stuff's fantastic. So here again I've picked that second one up, and I'm literally just kind of rocking that onto the nail. When you're picking the design up as well from the plate, rock the stamper onto the plate. I can do some more stamping videos if you like. Please let me know, because I'm really enjoying using the medium at the minute. Once I've done all of that, I will go in with my top coat. I'll cure that and we're done. I do hope you've enjoyed watching this. If you have any questions, as always, please put them in the comments. I love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day now. Bye.